Not the worst nor the best I've looked.
This is Melissa.
Hey, Melissa, it's Callie.
Hey, what's up?
Nothing much. Are you free now for what we were talking
am.
about?
Yeah.
Great! So, I did want to let you know that I'm planning on recording this so I can submit this. Are you all right with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Alrighty. Thank you. One, I really do want to thank you for actually helping me out. I didn't realize until my mother told me about what you actually like. I knew you worked for Duke, but I couldn't remember what you did. I knew you worked alongside the nurses, so I thought you were like a registrar or something.
Oh, yeah. Yep. No.
Alrighty. But again, thank you. I do have a couple of questions, so hopefully this won't take too much of your time.
Yeah, no sweat.
Alrighty. So, would you be able to tell me what your name is, the title that you have, and where do you work?
My name is Melissa Bankus. My title is Development Associate in the Principal and Transformational Gifts Department at Duke Health Development and Alumni Affairs, which Duke Health Development and Alumni Affairs is the fundraising office for Duke Health, which includes the hospital system, the School of Medicine, and the School of Nursing.
All right, so it's all over the place.
Yeah.
What do you do like day to day as a part of your job?
So I work in the office. It's named Principal Transformational Gifts, and our office defines that as anything over $5 million. So that could be an individual gift of $5 million or more, or if we have a prospect who's rated at $5 million. So we have what are called capacity ratings, and it's a research estimate of how much we think a prospect can give in the next 5 years to any charitable organization based on property values, assets, public records, things like that.
Okay.
So I work, a lot of data entry of like filing those solicitations in our database, working with gift officers to finalize their proposals, gift approval process. There's an internal, if there's something that someone wants to create as a part of their gift, it has to go through an internal approval process. We have what are called contact reports. So any conversation with a prospect or a donor, you file that in the database too. So a gift officer had a meeting with someone, we talked about X, Y, and Z, so I file those reports for those gifts. And then the other half of my job, I shouldn't say half, the other part is staffing our leadership. So for the highest levels of gifts, the deans of both of the schools and the chancellor, and then the president of the university are going to be involved in those gift conversations. So we staff those offices. So we'll create briefings for any meetings that they go to. We'll plan their trips. If they're going to California for a week, we'll kind of set up the meetings for them to go on and work on their itineraries and things like that. This past year, it's been virtual, so that's been easier. And then I would say, it's like 30%, and then 30% is probably just departmental work of like, we've got 2 monthly meetings where we host gift officers to talk about those gifts that are in the pipeline. We talk about fundraising strategy, we talk about trends in like the market, the field of philanthropy. Like right now, it's very trendy to do group funded gifts where, you say, I'm going to get 15 of my friends and we're going to donate $100,000 to create an endowment, which sounds great in theory, but an endowment's legally binding, so having 15 different parties, you'd have to really, it's a lot of work, and the university endowment often, would have to change everything they ever change. They'd have to contact 15 people, get written permission, things like that. So, long story short, those are the kind of the big three parts of my job. Right now, it's a little bit of a slower season just because of the academic calendar.
Right. And you actually already kind of answered the next part of my question, and it was like, what tasks does it take for like this position, about like what you're already telling about like monthly meetings, understanding trends and everything. So thank you so much for that. And how does your position benefit your school?
Well, so I think the thing in my past 2 development jobs, it was me and one other person in the office. And now I'm in an office of 110. So for me, the thing that I do is like the grease on the wheels. So if the gift officer is going to those meetings and writing those proposals with faculty members, I'm the project manager behind all of those things of like, did you talk to so-and-so, we need to get this approval, or, so I would say as far as bandwidth, that's really the biggest asset I can give to those people, so kind of keeping things on the tracks, and then, that project management of what can I take off of that person's plate.
Gotcha. Now, what do you believe would be the best way to, like, or in the future, or like, what do you think would need to change in order to get more funding for your school? Or do you believe for any school, for that matter?
I think higher ed has a reputation of bureaucracy. And so I think a lot of people, it's harder to show the direct impact of your dollars at an academic medical institution sometimes. Like when we've talked to corporate sponsors before for some of our events, they'll say, well, Duke is a massive, institution, and my gift of $100,000 isn't going to make as big of a deal, whereas if I give it to another organization that's much smaller, that really has a lot of impact. So I think for Duke, I would say it's probably more about, you have to really specify what the direct impact is, how that gift is going to help move their cause forward. For example, when I give the Cliff Notes version of like why the health system would need a fundraising office, I'll say, well, I could spend an hour talking about it and still not be done. But as an example, ultra high net worth individuals, I come in, I fly into Duke because they have the best ex-surgeon, and then my surgery goes really well, and that surgeon is researching different methods for the surgery that I got. So as a gratitude to him, I say, I'd like to help support your work. What can I do? And that person will say, there was someone the other day that said, I spend $10,000 a month on mice because that's what my lab runs on. Those are, that's the stage that we're at in my work. And, so like there's things like that, the nuts and bolts of supporting that. So something like that where you get to develop a relationship with a faculty member, I think is such meaningful philanthropy that people come back and want to do more and more and can see that. But I do think a lot of people, a big challenge that Duke has is just, it's such a massive institution. How could you possibly need the money?
Right. And then I've got one more question, and this one's more, I guess, kind of to you, possibly. And so what would be your dream scenario for fundraising? Like, what would be your dream fundraising event or anything that you want to go to? Like, what would be your dream scenario?
Me as an individual personally, or like professionally, what I'd want to work on?
Let's do both if that's all right with you.
Personally, I would like to learn more about the charity care aspect of the hospital system. If someone came in and said, similar, a couple of years ago, and I guess still ongoing, there was a big trend of people paying off school lunch debts. I don't know. I think healthcare is a lot more complicated as far as like paying people's bills off, but I'd be interested to know, like, is there ever a chance that someone could kind of do something similar for healthcare bills? Personally, that is what I think I would be interested in. I don't know if it exists in that capacity. Professionally, I do like what I do now. I mean, I think what I've got now is pretty close to my ideal work scenario. I do think I miss out, since I work with all the departments, I think I do miss out on some of that specialization. Like if I was just during the neurosciences, I could go deep into one subject and know the faculty members really well and get more acquainted with the disease area, the treatments, the things like that, the prospect pool. Whereas now, I think the double-edged sword is I get to do a little bit of everything, but I also get to do a little bit of everything.
Right.
So I think that's something I would maybe change. But, I think part of the reason I wanted to work at Duke is I love working at a university. I just like the university environment, and I had come from really small teams where I kind of had to do a little bit of everything when you're on a small team. And when people ask me what I like about my job now, it's kind of glib, but I'll say, well, there's an events team, so I'm not the only one. I don't have to plan a whole event by myself or with one other person because I don't really like doing events. So it's nice that I can be the person in the background to support those events, but it's not my expertise and it's not something I enjoy. So being part of a really big office, there's a lot of resources and benefits that a lot of fundraising teams just don't have.
Right. I really do want to thank you for, again, at least letting me interview you for my class. Even though I know we don't talk as often, I know that we kind of chat and we talk through Instagram and everything.
Yeah.
But really, you're helping me out with probably the last big hurrah of my first class as a master's to get into higher education. I think the only other assignment I was a little worried on was my outline. So hopefully this will help me out a little bit too.
So what is your assignment, to talk to someone who's done fundraising? Is that...
So it was someone specifically. I think the professor really wished for us to speak to somebody of director of development or someone along those lines. It does not have to be at Lincoln, and it did not have to be at an HBCU.
Okay.
So I was very thankful that I knew someone in the Department of Development.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like I would love to hear more about this class because I think it's a really misunderstood profession. I think there's a lot of things I have misgivings about, of course, but I think everyone has some misgivings about their job. But yeah, that's really interesting. I think it's a lot. I get a lot of confusion. Like if I say I'm in I usually say I'm in fundraising because development is just kind of meaningless to the civilian, I think, that doesn't really know what development can mean. Or they think I mean business development. And I'm like, no, that's not really.
Gotcha.
But I want to hear more about who other people talk to. And after you're done with the class, I want to hear more about it.
Of course. I'll definitely let you know. My main goal is to keep this A that I've got in the class.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
All right. I'll reach back out and I'll give you updates on everything though, and I'll of course like let you know like what we were reading and all the stuff. It's a lot of information and I've loved every second of it, especially with us focusing on HBCUs.
Yeah. Send me the syllabus too, and you can text me if you want. That's totally fine.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye.
That was my aunt. So there we go. I can't think of anything else to add. So that was my interview.